don't focus on the gear. Don't focus on the softwares. Focus on being a good storyteller. Stories are what make the documentary to begin with. And as mentioned before, there's a big difference between a topic and a story. If you have a topic, you don't have a story. So make sure that you know exactly the physical and metaphysical aspect of your character's journey. And once you have that down packed, then look into everything else like gear, software, funding, etc.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to Legacy's Journey, where we talk about creating what outlives you. I'm your host, Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth for marketing agencies so that they can live the dream life they deserve and not be a slave to their business. And we do that all through CFO services. So, of course, y'all saw a couple of episodes ago that we went to Funnel Hacking Live. It was amazing. In this amazing hotel that's huge. It's like plenty of walking. But of course, while I was there, I got to meet a lot of cool people. And one of them in the Facebook group, it was this guy that reached out and he was like, "Hey, you going?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, "I'm going." And I'm like, "Bet." And so we was like, "We got to meet up." So introducing to everybody is Lefteris Koutinas. Introduce yourself. Welcome to the podcast. Tell the people name of your company, how long you've been doing it, who you help, and then we'll jump into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. So my name is Lefteris Koutinas, and I own a production house that specializes in documentary filmmaking. And I've been around since 2017. So I've been doing it for a handful of years now.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so let's jump right into it. So you're talking about documentaries, which we know now, especially with media, is getting more and more traction. I mean, Netflix is making Lord knows how much just off that. What made you specialize in documentaries versus just regular media or regular videos?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Funny thing is, I was actually doing promotional advertising, but when I
Mhm.
got into the film industry, I got into the film industry to essentially, make movies, right? But when I got into the coaching space, I guess my shiny object syndrome was video sales letters. But there are a handful of individuals that unfortunately pegged all the responsibility uh, of their success on me. So it ended up happening where it's like, if they didn't get any sales or if something didn't work out in terms of like a lot of discovery calls or whatever the case might be, it was my video that was the problem. Um, and of course, it's always easy to point fingers at somebody else.
Right, right.
But I just came to like my breaking point where I was like, I'm not responsible for other people's success. Like, you got to be successful on your own. I'm here to just provide you tools. So I stopped that and I jumped back into why I fell in love with filmmaking to begin with, which were documentaries and adaptations. So that's kind of like how everything started. And you know, over the last couple of years, like not only on my side, but my wife's side too, we lost people that were very close to us and like made like massive impacts within our families. Um, and outside of just like, memory, there's not really anything tangible that these individuals left behind. And I started to really think to myself, like, wow, like, I can only imagine how many other people don't have a film about themselves that they can even just leave to their
Right.
family, to their spouses. Um, and that's kind of and that's kind of like how I jumped back into it. I was like, everybody deserves to leave their legacy behind, whether it's just to tell their stories of their experiences and their journeys, or whether they're 7, 8, 9, 10 figure entrepreneurs that are building schools in Africa. Like, whatever the case might be, it like you should leave your legacy behind, no matter which way, shape, and form.
I love it because I mean that's literally I think kind of how we got into the podcast because I used to do a vlog, right? Like we all know who Gary Vaynerchuk he is, and
Yeah.
he's like, hey, every day you should be tearing that camera up. And I remember doing vlogs, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And I mean, even looking back, I'm like, dang, I remember when I said that or was going through that. But how do you think it helps the entrepreneur? And is there a difference in the regular person versus the entrepreneur?
Well, yeah, I mean, to the regular person, I don't feel like, I mean, they have nothing to gain from, like, let's say, a monetary standpoint, right?
Right,
Um unless like someone like myself was to like take care of distribution for them, which is something that I offer as well. So normally you would look at distribution in terms of like royalty splits, like through YouTube, right? And the
right.
YouTube generated revenue from ads. Um, from a business standpoint or a business owner standpoint, it's like that now gives you an opportunity to be a little bit more raw and authentic with your audience. You might share something in your film that you would probably never in a million years just put in a regular post on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever. Um,
Facts.
and the fact that you just allow to peel back those layers and be even more raw, authentic, and even unfiltered, uh, that alone that alone speaks volumes because it now makes you even more relatable than what you already were. And if you can even just say like 5 words minimum that someone else can capture, that person might turn around and be like, "Oh, damn, like I got to work with that guy because like he just said these 5 words and now I need to know all about their coaching program or all about their e-com products
Right.
or whatever the case might be." Um so yeah, I think that would really be just the difference maker is in the monetary, but if you look at it, we're all just regular human beings, right? Businesses or not.
That is true. That is true.
So we we benefit as a whole because we also got to leave something for future generations, right? Like when when I
Hmm.
pass on,
Are you trying to say that it can't just all be money?
no, absolutely not. Like you like when I pass on, and if God gives me the will to live, well into like my 80s and maybe even 90s, you know,
Hmm.
that's still like 40-ish years from now. But when I pass, YouTube is still going to be around. It's probably going to be better than what it is now. It's probably going to be like holographic, or you're probably going to be able to like enter YouTube like visually. Like I don't know
Yeah.
what they're going to do
Ready
40
Player
years
One
from now.
style, right?
Exactly. So like you got to think of it like that. Like you're going to have like just an archive of like people from like hundreds of years ago, or even just 100 years ago, and all that information and all that education, people are going to want to look back on that. Like if you truly think about it, and I'm going to be using a very, very aggressive figure right now, but we're almost coming up to, you know the 100-year mark of like Hitler passing away, but we still study that guy because of World War II. So imagine the impact that you can leave even far, far past you passing on, essentially.
That makes sense. I mean, and I think that's perfect because I mean, of course, we talk about leaving a legacy, and I think probably I'd say every guest before you has always talked about like, what do I leave them? Do I want to bring them into business? But I think you may be the first one to actually talk about, yeah, there's a financial component, but there's also a mental and visual and emotional component to leave behind in regards to your story as well. So I feel like that is so interesting.
Yeah.
That's great
Absolutely.
because now I'm up here like, dang. So on these Netflix, okay, I'll get to market. Okay, so you mentioned wifey.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. So you started now. This is 2017. We're going back in the past,
Okay,
and you
rewind.
said, "Babe, I think." I'm going to step out on my own and do documentaries. She says, what?
She says absolutely. She's my number one supporter. She always has
Okay.
been. She always will be. She has like an entrepreneur mindset and background herself. Even
Mhm.
when she was working in like the typical corporate America, but it wasn't like it was a bit of an easy decision, but it was a not so easy transition because
Okay.
prior to that I was actually a touring DJ and a music producer.
Oh, snap.
Yes sir. So I was touring, I was playing shows, I was playing music festivals with like 40,000 people. I was playing 300-person underground parties when I was leaving the clubs at like 11 o'clock in the morning, sometimes even 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Like that's how crazy things used to get. And I knew that when I met my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, I was like, yo, I need to be home more. I can't be like living this like childish lifestyle and running around and going to party after party and whatnot. And that's when I said to her that how the conversation actually started was, yo, babe, I think I'm going to stop DJing, but I still need to be creative. And that's when she turned around and was like, well, what do you have in mind? And I said to her, well, when I was getting my photos and videos back of myself, I thought I looked pretty cool. I think I can do that for others. I think I can make other people look and feel just as cool as I felt when I first got my material back. And
Yeah.
she goes, all right, well, look into it, see what you can come up with. And it didn't happen on my own. We were getting married at the time. And I happened to, have a conversation with my mom because I run a lot of things by my mom before I'd make like big decisions.
Shout out
And
to moms.
that's it. Shout out to moms. And I pretty much told her the exact same thing I was having a conversation with my wife about. And she was like, don't worry about it, honey. I got you covered. Consider it a wedding present. Let's go to the camera store and get what you need. And I was like, oh, damn. Like, I'm like, mom, you sure?
Right. You
Like,
taking this really serious right now.
yeah. I'm like, you sure? Like, this isn't like a couple $100 here. You know what I mean? And she was like, no, no, let's just do it. She goes, how long are you gonna have this for? I go, I don't know, at least 10 years. And she goes, oh, then it's chump change. I go, well, that's a good way of looking at it. And that's
Okay,
kind of how my
mom.
career got started.
What a story. Okay, so we went from DJing. You had a great experience with your own visuals and documentary, and you say, I want to do that same thing and make it even bigger and better for other people. And then mom comes along and she blesses you. I love it. Okay, now, so now fast forward, I think this is year 6 or 7.
Yep,
So now we're successful. I don't know if you call yourself an agency or firm, but company, businessman.
sure.
So I know in being married, so yeah, now you're not staying up super late, but instead of going out, maybe it's creating the videos or trying to link the sound right or bring the right soundtrack, DJ, to mix and match the different parts. So, what are some of the things that you and wifey do to stay connected so it's just not we're roommates, we pay bills together? Like, what does that look like on a weekly and monthly basis on how to stay connected, fun things that you guys do or look forward to?
Yeah, so just on a relationship aspect, we like to work out together. We like to go we like to cook together. And then by the
Wait, wait,
time
wait.
I
Who's the better cook?
oh, my wife's Caribbean, so I'm gonna throw it out to her for sure.
Okay, okay, keep going.
She definitely has the touch, Um, but outside of that, because by the time all that's done, there's not really a lot of time left in the day, because it probably gets to about 8, 9 o'clock, and she likes to call me a grandpa, but I do have an earlier sleeping schedule than she does. But one thing that we do together that helps the business is that we both enjoy the same style of documentaries.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
Style like.
like, oh man, I mean, sometimes they could be morbid, sometimes it could be like the true crime murder mystery type stuff. Other
Okay.
times it could be just about, the financial industry, or it could be about um an
So you're a
athlete.
Netflix fan. You're a lover of Netflix.
Netflix, Prime, Paramount, Disney. Like, if you got a solid documentary for me to watch, I'm there watching it.
Hmm. So like, I don't know who puts it on, but like I know Johnny Manziel just dropped on Netflix, and it was wild. Like that's your type of documentary right there.
Yeah, yeah. One that I'm thoroughly enjoying right now is How to Become a Cult Leader.
And
Uh,
somebody mentioned. Okay, tell us why. I don't know if that's a book or I saw somebody else mention that.
Um, honestly, and we both heard it from Russell Brunson when we were at Funnel Hacking Live, but I think I'm just very interested in interesting people, right?
Hmm.
And then when it comes to anything that's like murder mystery style, or just kidnappings or anything like that, it's just a matter of like I want to know what goes on in that person's head to want to take it to that level. Like,
Right.
why did you do that action to begin with? And then I just really like it from like a psychological standpoint. I think when you can really make me think, that's what makes a good documentary for me. When there's like that aha moment, or like, oh, how did he do that, or why did he do that? Because I don't know, it makes me, to me it kind of makes me feel like a detective, like I'm like a documentary detective. Like, I kind of get into the
Yeah.
whole I kind of get into the whole police role, where it's like, oh, why did the killer do this, or why what transpired this event, and so on and so forth. Like,
Would you say that means the documentary editors are doing their job then?
oh, absolutely. I think it's a different ball game. I mean, it's not short form content, that's for sure, and it
No,
sure as
no.
hell is not YouTube videos. Like, you need to craft a different type of artistic style in order to really piece together a good documentary. Yeah.
I agree. So then, okay, because I know on the accounting side, finances, certain things I can't watch or my brain's gonna turn on and start picking it apart. Is that how it is? Like when you're watching the How to Be a Cult Leader or one of the other ones, is it are you enjoying it as a fan and then you go back and watch it as like, how did they pan this shot? What music are they trying to put here to evoke emotions? Or are you literally just, nope, I'm a fan and I'm just appreciating the craft?
Um, that's a great question. I actually watch it from both sides. Like, both me and my wife watch it from like the fan perspective, and like a filmmaker's perspective. There's so many times where like either myself or her will have the remote, and like we'll literally just pause it and rewind and be like, "Oh, did you watch how they did that?" And like we'll like watch the scene over and over again. There are times though where I'm just watching something as a fan, and it just happens that I see something that I like, and I was like, oh wow, like that's really good. Like, I could probably use that for this specific project that I have. Or a lot of the times I'll make either written or mental notes. Like, if I like something and I feel like I could potentially work with somebody that fits this style, I will make that mental note and say, like, okay, that specific shot, I'm going to remember that for when I have X client, right? And and a lot of the times, like, that's kind of like where I pull a lot of my creativity is just from like the things that I watch. And there are times where I do have my own style of doing things. So it's like a Frankenstein combination of all of it.
Okay, okay. So then, in your opinion, now this is a little technical. In
Okay.
your opinion, what makes a documentary go from good to like top tier great? Like, I would say, me and my non-educated in the field would say, my opinion. Like when I watched that Johnny, that's the last one I think I watched. When I watched that Johnny Manziel doc, I remember because, of course, I was alive during it. I remember he was the biggest thing, but to see all these different behind the scenes, and he was going through this, and then he was doing drugs here, and I'm like, I didn't even realize he was doing all this while competing at the highest level, which gave me a lot of insight. But conversely, I haven't watched the Florida Gator one, but they say it's like so many people missing that they didn't interview, which makes me not want to watch it because I'm like, yeah, y'all got Tebow there, but like, there's no Chris Leak, there's no Cam Newton, there's no Percy Harvin. Where the like, I didn't even want to look at it because I'm like, how does that even work? So, with that being said, what have you found is like, okay, this is a good one, and you maybe can see the views, I don't know, on Netflix or not, versus this is a like great top tier one, and I can tell you why it's that way.
Good documentaries, for me, have a lot of context. I'm a very detailed oriented person. Like, even when I'm storytelling and I'm just having a conversation that we are now, I like giving you every single detail so you have a great picture to visualize what I'm talking about and what I'm going through. Um, that number one makes a good documentary. A a great documentary has a combination of context and pacing. It's not only a
Okay, wait, you
matter of,
gotta explain that because
yeah.
remember,
So
now this is marketing agencies we're talking to, but when you say context plus pacing, because remember, a lot of which our industry knows, it's all about 60 seconds. So you pretty much intro, bam, 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 done. So when you say both of those pieces, what does that mean in your world as a person who does this at a high level?
right. Well, one thing that meshes both worlds, and one thing that we are, taught as entrepreneurs as well, is show don't tell, right? So, but this time it's a little different because although show don't tell does apply, it's kind of like it's kind of both. It's like show don't tell plus tell don't show, right? And a lot of it comes from like the interview aspect, because essentially documentaries, they focus a lot on the narration. So majority of it will be like a bunch of interviews conducted, or just following someone's journey, avant-garde style, right? But when you do have that, you don't want to just have a bunch of people sitting on a stool talking to you for 20 minutes that makes up a 90-minute film or a 2-hour film. You need to, like, that's the tell aspect, but you need to have the show aspect. So that's where further context comes into play. You want to be able to not only listen to the person's words and how they're saying it, but you also want to show what's happening on screen based on what is being told to us. And that's where the adaptation portion of the film comes in. A lot of documentaries, they don't have the capability or the access to get certain footage, right? Especially if you're like an indie filmmaker. I'm still in that indie filmmaker stage, but so what makes my documentaries more powerful is that I recreate adaptations using actors to recreate scenes that you might not have had access to. Maybe you didn't film something or had access to video or even knew what video was when you were conducting uh, whatever it is that you were talking about at that very moment. So I like to create worlds within the narration, and that's the further context. That's what continues to push that story forward. But then pacing is how you say it. You don't want to just be the kind of person where it's like Yeah, I woke up one day, I decided I didn't want to be in a 9 to 5 job. So I decided to go on Chat GPT and ask what are the top 10 businesses that I can start that'll make me $1 million. And then all of a sudden I made $1 million. That's boring,
Right,
right?
right.
Like, you want to be able to pace that a bit. You want to be able to be like, man, I remember the first day I woke up, I was completely depressed. I had no support. My parents were just pissed at me that I quit my job, that they weren't sure how I was going to pay rent. Now we have some juice behind it. Now you got me hooked. You're like, oh, damn, right? So it, all of it, like, works as one symphony. But again, it's like how you say it, right? When someone's talking about a sad moment, they're not gonna blah, 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 like it's like a 15-second reel, right? I wanna slow down the pace. I want to hear it, but I don't want to just hear it. I want to feel it in your
That's good.
voice.
That's good. Yeah.
So uh that's what it is. Good is context, great is context and pacing.
That is good. I guess I I'm in shock because I'm like, dang, we really do try to force the pace because of 60 seconds. But in your world, it's the complete opposite. That is so good. And I think it's fair to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to be aware of what's the medium you're on too. If you're trying to do a reel, that is completely different than some type of long form footage or documentary style.
Yeah, I mean, you like even like documentaries require a lot of work. They require a lot of patience. They require a lot of logistics in general, and you need to go into a documentary knowing exactly what you're going to be doing. Nobody just comes out of the woodwork and is just like, I'm going to just start filming myself and then I'm going to piece it all together. Like, no, you don't have a, like, what? No, you need to. Documentaries have, in my opinion, almost uh, just as much like parts and steps as it would to produce a film. You might not, you might not have that large of a cast or that large of a crew because you don't need it. A documentary maybe at most has 5 to 10 key players max. And 10 is even too much. Like, you have 10 key players if you're doing like a docu series and it's like episodic. But if you're doing like a feature or a short, like a feature doc which is like 70 to 90 minutes, probably 1 to 3 characters max. A short, like, you're lucky if you can get a second character out of it. I would stick to just the one. Um so it's like I build my shot list. I can walk in there and be like, "Hey, Cameron, like it's 11 o'clock. We have this shot to do today. Like, this is what I'm doing." Right? It's not just like I'm gonna walk into your kitchen and be like, "Yeah, I think we can shoot there." Like, oh no, like I know exactly what's happening every minute,
Right.
every hour. I know when lunch breaks are happening. I know when washroom breaks are happening. Like, it's it's a lot. It's get ready to work when we work.
Rapid fire. Best documentary of 2023 that you watched.
Oh man. Damn, you put me on the spot with that one. Oh, I would say the docu series Text Me When You Get Home.
Okay. Best documentary ever.
Oh wow. Um Super Size Me.
Oh
It's in my
Lord.
top 10. It's in my top 10.
All right. Why you should make a documentary.
because you should leave your legacy and make an impact on this world, not only for yourself, but for future generations as well, to have a better understanding of who you were as the person and the business owner.
Why you shouldn't make a documentary?
Wow, I've actually never been asked that question before. Why you shouldn't make a documentary
Yes.
if you don't have a story or a journey.
Or based on what you said earlier, if you're just coming in thinking you can wing it, there's no real purpose to it, or you don't have a true vision or purpose behind it, you may not be ready to do one.
Yeah, I think the best I think why okay, if I'm gonna answer that again, I would say why you shouldn't do a documentary is if you have a topic versus a story because they're not the same.
Ooh, that's good. They're not the same. All right. Last thing, and this is one of our favorite questions. If you could go back in time to college or high school version of yourself, you tell them what?
Leave DJing much sooner and start filmmaking.
Because
Oh, because you're going to be able to inspire others and make a change in this world and for others so much faster.
Hmm, that's good. All right. Well, this is the end because I know you're a busy guy. You got more documentaries and things to do. But before we get out of here, tell the people, what does a perfect client look like for you? Where can they find you? How can they connect with you? Because they may say, dang, I just realized I need to do something like this for myself or leave this for my family. So, how do they get in touch with you? What's your best type of client look like? Give them all that information. This is your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you guys can all find me at lefteriskoutinas.com, where you can also be shifted over to all my other social platforms such as Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn. My ideal client are 6 and 7 figure coaches. Documentaries are not for the light of heart, and they do require a bit of a budget. So that is something to keep in mind when creating these types of films. I also do say that Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will your documentary. So if you are looking for 7, 14, or 30-day turnarounds, I am not your guy. If you are looking to have a lifetime of ROI and make an impact while leaving your legacy, then I am your guy. And you can, again, go to lefteriskoutinas.com to book a call with me.
Spell it for them because we don't want them to miss it. Like, I want them to be able to know that's my guy. This is how I get. Spell it for them because we don't want them to
All
mess it up.
right. Here we go. Lefteriskoutinas.com.
Bam. All right, leave us with something to the 16-year-old that's kind of getting into film, to the person who's a media company but is switching more towards this style. What is a thing or two that we can end the podcast that you would look back and tell them?
If you're just starting out, don't focus on the gear, don't focus on the softwares, focus on being a good storyteller. Stories are what make the documentary to begin with. And as mentioned before, there's a big difference between a topic and a story. If you have a topic, you don't have a story. So make sure that you know exactly the physical and metaphysical aspect of your character's journey. And once you have that down packed, then look into everything else like gear, software, funding, etc.
Bam. There you go, dropping bombs. All right, y'all. Well, he has to go. Save the day. We thank Lefty so much for coming through. Guys, you heard it here. If you want to connect with him, he told you how to do it. He's on social. check out his work. Oh, tell us what is like the latest documentary that they maybe can find somewhere if they're like, I want to check out some of his work. I know it's going to be on your website, but it is also.
Yeah, you can go to my YouTube channel, also at Lefteris Koutinas. I just actually released a film today of Tuan Nguyen's backstory from Kingdom Impact Coaching, based on the
Okay.
date that you're watching this podcast. It is currently Friday, October 20th. So that was the release date of that short film. It was an adaptation of a pivotal moment in his life. We decided to do an adaptation because I'm in Canada, he is in Texas, and the best part about it is that we got a 15-minute film done for him, and he literally had zero, zero part in it, just needed to provide us his story. So he was able to continue focusing on his business while we focused on making sure that we were getting his story told in the right way.
There you go. All right, y'all. Well, that's it. As always, we thank y'all for tuning in. If you find somebody that you think this could help, you know, a young person that's getting into film, please share this with them. Make them reach out to him. They need a mentor, somebody who's currently doing it at a high, supreme level. So, guys, that's it. We're going to try to continue to bring you guys the best guests possible. Lefty, thank you so much for coming through. We're going to make sure we put all the links in the comments and in the bio and everywhere we can to make sure that we promote you. You guys go check out that short film on his YouTube. Until then, that's all we got. Y'all stay blessed and take care of yourselves. Peace.
Peace.